Today I'm going to tell you how to run a sub 20 minute 5k whilst I also attempt to run a sub 20 minute 5k. Let's get to it. So we're currently lined up at the Ellesmere Port Park Run, and there is absolutely zero excuses today because it is a gorgeous, gorgeous day. The weather in the UK has been unbelievable this week, and long may it continue. The Ellesmere Port Park Run is not a massive park run, there's about 150 people running today, but it is the first time I've ran here, and I was pretty surprised to find out that about 80% of the course was probably running over grass. I think if it was the middle of the winter or autumn where there had been a lot of rainfall, it would be an absolute nightmare running around here, but thankfully it's pretty firm conditions. So I used to be one of those runners that would constantly get 21, 22, 23 minutes, and it used to frustrate me so much because I was so desperate to break that 20-minute barrier. And it wasn't until I started implementing proper training and proper structure that I was able to do this. So my first tip and first piece of advice on breaking that barrier is making sure that you've got a proper training program. This doesn't start the day before race day, it starts the weeks and months prior to your event or prior to the park run that you're targeting. And that proper training schedule for me, and what worked for me, was consistently running at least 25 miles per week. And those 25 miles were breaking up with one long run, one speed interval session, one tempo run, and then I built up the additional mileage with just easy runs. For me, the key and most important session when training for a 5k distance was that interval speed session. An absolute classic one that I loved to do was 5 times 1k reps at target 5k pace with 60 to 120 seconds rest in between. And as you can see, we're just meandering through a little bit of mud here, and this would be a really difficult course in the middle of the winter, absolutely squelching our way through here. It would be a tough gig around here, but thankfully we've got gorgeous conditions today. So the course is a 2-lap course, and we can already see it, the heart rate is pushed into the 180s, but that's absolutely okay because a 5k race, it's meant to hurt. We're going to be in the 180s pretty much for the whole of the run. We can see that the pace is hovering around the 4-minute flat, 4-minute 12, 4-minute. As we just go around the bend there, it just drops a little bit and we're back into the 3s as we pick it up. And you can see the ground, see where it's pretty firm here, but you can imagine in the winter that this would be so soft, and it would be such a difficult course. I've actually got the Asics Super Blast 2s on today. But if you're running this in the winter, you definitely want some sort of trail shoes. And as we head back into the wooded area, there's about 5 or 6 people in front of us. I think we're sat in about 6th or 7th position at the minute, which isn't too bad. It's a field of 150 people, and we're going to see how we get on. We're going to see where we rank, but obviously the ultimate goal here is to get a sub 20 minute 5k. As we pass through the first kilometre, it's a split time of 3 minutes 55, and that is exactly where we want it to be. Not too quick, but just enough where we're starting to bank ourselves some seconds going into the remaining 4Ks. And we've just had our first overtake there, and can we get our second overtake on this guy here? And if you look at the ground, you can see it's very grassy, it's very soft. That excellent foam of the Super Blast 2s isn't really giving us much help here. But you know what, it's probably giving the joints a break, probably giving those joints a nice breather running on some softer ground. And can we get our second overtake? I think we can. Look at the pace actually, it's around the 3 minutes 12 as we overtake him there. That's probably a little bit too quick for what we're trying to do here, but I must say my watch's GPS was way outrunning this, and I was basing this a lot on effort and perceived feel. So not to bore you guys to death, I've just forwarded the video a tiny bit there, and as you can see we've just gone round quite a nasty meander. It really does cause the pace to drop, and it really does sort of make you lose your rhythm a little bit, but we're straight back into it. The heart rate's sitting around the 180s into the 182s, and that's absolutely okay for this sort of race. Fully expect to be in the low 180s for this. My max heart rate is the 190s, and you can see the pace. We're hovering around the 4-minute flat, trickling into the 3s, just trickling above the 4s. It's exactly where we want to be. And that brings me on to my second tip, and that is make sure you pick the right course. I can't stress this one enough. There is absolutely no point turning up to a park run or a 5k race that's got loads of hills, it's up and down, you're running over grass, you're running over sand dunes. You're going to find it a lot harder than running a flat, concreted course. And I've put this one in here because obviously today I've turned up and I got lucky. I got lucky because the weather's been absolutely brilliant and it was lovely, firm, flat ground. However, if this was the middle of the winter, I would have been absolutely shafted running through boggy, wet, grassy conditions. As we pass through the second kilometre there, we've got a split time of 4 minutes, so we're absolutely bang on the money. The first K was a 3:55, second K 4 minutes, so we've banked ourselves 5 seconds if we want to come in with an under 20-minute mark. And look at the heart rate, it's around about the 184, 185 beats per minute. And you can see in the bottom left, we've got the course map. We're just about to finish our first lap, probably about 500-600 metres to go, and we'll be through our first lap. And ooh, who do we have here? It is fan number uno and fan number dos. Probably after my autograph again. And that brings me on to my third tip, which is make sure you get warmed up for the race. The last thing you want to be doing is run straight off the baton without properly getting warmed up. Your risk of injury massively increases, but you're also physically nor mentally prepared for the race. Do some easy miles before you start the run. Little secret, I did 3k of easy jogging prior to even starting this race. I also did some dynamic stretching. Find yourself a nice tree, do some leg swingers, open the gate, close the gate, do whatever it is, make sure you're warmed up. We're about halfway through the third kilometre, and this point is where it really starts to hurt, and really you've got to really start digging deep. You can see the heart rate starting to spike. It's up to 187 beats per minute. The pace is still hovering around the 4 minute mark. We've got a 3:50 on the screen there, back into the low fours. But yeah, it really becomes a mental challenge at this point. It really becomes a slog. When there's somebody in front of you like there is here, it's just about trying to hold on to them and not letting them get too far in front of you, and even try and catch them up and try and get on the shoulder. Remember, they'll probably be feeling just as much pain as what you are, and it's absolutely normal to feel a lot of pain right now. It's all part and parcel to going for a PB time in the 5k. So I've just sped it up to where we get that 3k split, and you can see that the time is now 4 minutes 05, and look at the heart rate, we're into 190 beats per minute. It just shows you how hard you have to work for these 5ks. This isn't an all-out effort for me, this is like a controlled, hard tempo effort. I've ran faster than this before, and you can see my heart rate is spiking into the 190s. But yeah, we've lost 5 seconds over that kilometre there. But remember, we banked ourselves 5 seconds through the first 2 kilometres. So we're now absolutely bang on the money in terms of getting a 20-minute 5k. If we drop any more seconds over the next 2k, we're not going to come in under 20 minutes. So we've got a little bit of work to do over the next 2 kilometres, but I'm not too concerned at the minute. Just need to dig deep and stay with this guy. Fourth tip, pacing. You need to make sure you run the race at the right pace. Ideally, you want to be doing progressive splits, or the first 4k around a 3:55, 3:56. You're going to get away with a 3:57. However, you're cutting it a little bit fine there. Aim for a 3:55 or 3:56, and then in that final 5th k, you want to give it an all-out send and really see what time you can do. In an ideal scenario, you'll also have a pacer. Find yourself a mate who can run a sub 20-minute 5k. Get them to run with you. Make them do the work with the watches. Make them do the tracking. At the end of the day, you want to be thinking about your pace as little as possible so you can focus on the run, especially when you're going for a PB. But make sure you know your pacing. You want to be averaging just under a 4-minute K for the whole race, and the most efficient and optimum way for your body to do that is by progressive splits. I'm just going to fast forward the video again so we can get up to that 4th K, and let's see what the split time is. And it's a 4 minutes and 6 seconds. Ooh, so we've lost 6 seconds over that 4th kilometre, and I've done the exact opposite of what I've told you to do in that previous tip. This is going to make the final 5th K a very tricky one as we try and recover time on spent and tired legs. And to be honest, this is exactly where you don't want to be. The last thing you want to be doing is going into that 5th kilometre scrapping for time because you've not got the pacing right leading up to it. I'm pretty tired now, and I know I've got to dig deep, otherwise this whole video could be an absolute disaster. But in my defence, what I will say is the watch that I'm wearing is being a pretty naughty boy today, and the GPS seems to be out just a little bit, and the paces just don't feel quite right in terms of the perceived effort that I'm putting in here. Either way, we're going to have to dig deep to make sure we get that sub 20 minutes. Let's see if we can get it. And this leads on nicely to my 5th and final tip. Back to myself in the studio, let's see what I've got to say. And my final and 5th tip, and I think the most important one that often gets overlooked in running, It's about being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And what I mean by this is a 5k race, it's going to hurt, like really, really hurt. You're literally working, your heart rate's up there, it's absolute maximum, close to your maximum heart rate. You're working in your top threshold zone and you're doing it for the whole of the race. Forget the third to fourth kilometre of doom. I think the whole 5k is doom. The whole thing hurts. It's going to feel painful. It's not going to feel pleasant. You're going to want to stop, but you've got to ignore that voice in your head that's telling you to give up. I only managed to do a sub 20 minute 5k when I really had that mental battle. It's much about the mental battle as it is the physical battle. If you've put the work, put the mileage, put the speed sessions in, physiologically you're going to be capable of doing it, but your mind is going to tell you that you're not going to be able to do it. And right now I am not comfy, people. This is really starting to hurt. I'm going to have to seriously dig deep and see this one through. I've messed up a little bit with the timings. I've done exactly the opposite of what I've told you to do. Let's see if we can get the sub 20. We've got about 200, 300 metres left here, and it needs to be a big all-out send if we want to get under 20 minutes. Let's just get round this final corner and give it a sprint finish. Come on. I've got the progressive splits wrong here, and that's where I've messed up. This is exactly what you shouldn't be doing, but it doesn't matter if we get under that 20 minutes. Look at the pace though, it's a 250s, back into the low threes. Sprint it through, Ben. Come on, all out finish. It's okay for it to hurt. We need to dig deep if we want a sub 20. Just overtake these on here on the right. Push through, final 10 metres, and there we go. And the final K's a 351, we'll take that. Let's get that barcode. And what's Parkrun giving us? This best be under 20 minutes. It's a 1957. Talk about cutting it fine. The video was nearly an absolute disaster. 6th place as well. We'll take that, people. And remember, if you want to finish a parkrun or a 5k in under 20 minutes, these tips will help you too.